Hey guys, welcome back. So, this is going to be our very first Yap session that is not going to be part of like my weight loss talks. So, not to say that I'm not going to do more weight loss yaps and stuff. It's still something that I am 100% focused on and I'm trying to achieve my goals, but I do want to talk about other things just to give some more variety and I'm a yapper. I like to talk. So there's definitely a lot of other topics that I have a lot to say and a lot of stuff to talk about. And today's subject is actually going to be something that's near and dear to me. And I'm sure if you guys came from my last yap, where I was talking about BTS, you guys would probably see where I'm going here is that I'm a fan of K pop. And there has been a lot of evolution in that like part of my life. I have been a fan for about 10 years now, which makes me very ancient, I think. There's some people who've been there for a while, but it's something that I wanted to talk about just because like I said, there was a lot of evolution in there and I'm a completely different fan than I was back then, but there's still some things that are very much the same. And I know, like, if I were to say what I'm about to say today and then show you one of my concert videos, you'd be like, Natalie, I don't see what you're talking about, but I'll get into it. And it is kind of a topic that I was a little bit nervous to like kind of broach and like make part of the Yap sessions, like, or to have as a topic for Yap sessions. And I think that just has to do with, I don't know, like I feel like maybe it's like an individual thing where like everyone has such niche interests, or maybe it is just me. I don't know, because the people I hang around with and that I talk to, all of us like the same like niche things, but I feel like a lot of things that like when I was way younger that I liked were odd or were different and wasn't something a lot of people liked. So like now I feel like I still have kind of like like a stigma? No, not a stigma, more like a bit of hesitation to talk about like the just like the topics that I'm interested in and all that, even though nowadays I know that like K-pop, right, which is something that I've been a fan of for 10 years. So like K-pop now is more way more widely known. Like it went to a place that I could have never imagined 10 years ago. And even then, when 10 years ago, it was starting to get popular. Like it was, and so the fact that it's so much more popular, it's kind of insane. but but nowadays I feel like with like TikTok and all of this, we there's so much exposure to everything that like people are now like kind of more like aware of like more niche things. So like with K-pop, back when I first started liking K-pop, it was seen as like a very odd thing to like if I were to be lined up, like maybe like maybe camped out in front of, let's say, the Honda Center in Anaheim, and I was lining up for the BTS Wings tour, and it was like a pit, like so we're out there a day or two early to line up and camp out. And if someone were to come up to me and they'd be like, "Oh, who are you guys here lining up to see?" Right? They're expecting Bieber, they're expecting Taylor Swift. Like, they're not. When would tell them like, "Oh, it's for BTS," like, it'd be like no recognition of that name ever in their head. They are completely like, "Oh, what's that?" Like, who is that? Like, I've never heard of that. And we would have to just explain, "Oh, it's a K-pop group." And again, like, I think back then the word even just K-pop, it wouldn't be like they would automatically know, "Oh, it's Korean pop," or even particularly how it's used like now, which is just like idol groups, I think. Like I would say, okay, like I know because pop here in the States, it can mean a wide variety of, it's just like popular music. While I feel like K-pop, it seems to kind of be more like the connotation of that seems to just be like more idol groups. But I mean, I could be wrong about that. That's just kind of how, like, when I think of K-pop, I think of that. But I think, like, just because of what people are exposed to, they would also just assume it's idol groups. But anyways, like I said, back in the day, K-pop was not that recognizable. They probably wouldn't have understood, like, instantly clicked, like, oh, it's Korean pop music, or even that it's like a group, an idol group, like a boy band. But like truly, like now that I like really thought about it and am more used to how more widely known it is, and even then it's my channel, so I guess I could just talk about whatever I want, truly. So, and if people don't want to listen to it, then they can listen to something else. And then if there's people that do want to listen to it, they can tune in. So, that's kind of where this Yap session is gonna go to. So, just to preface my history with K-pop, so I know a lot of people like they'll remember the exact first time that they ever heard something like from their favorite group or what song it was, what music video was, the time, the weather, like, probably not like that crazy. But I remember very clearly that I was already like listening to K-pop songs, and I remember the exact songs. It was SNSD or Girls' Generation, and it was G, and it was, oh wait, was it Twinkle? It was like another Girls' Generation song, I think it was like a subunit of some sort. But I remember I had them like liked and would listen to them often. And then there was one FX song too, and it was Electric Shock. So those two like were for sure on there, and I liked them and I would listen to them often. But the thing was, back in the day, I thought that was J-pop. Like I was already like someone who was really into anime. I already had like a bunch of like anime opening, outro songs on my playlists. I had a lot of AKB. And so I was like thinking, like when it got recommended to me, and I, of course, like heard a language I didn't understand. And at that time, even though I was listening to a lot of like anime, like I don't think my brain had wired itself to understand like the difference between the languages. And now I can understand the differences. Like I wouldn't just hear Korean and be like, "Oh, what is that? Is that Chinese?" Like no, I would be able to distinguish like it maybe depending on an accent pretty quickly, I would say. And back then though, I was clueless. So I honestly thought I was just listening to another J-pop group, and I enjoyed them. So it didn't matter to me what language it was. I couldn't understand Japanese or Korean either way at that time. So, or now too. Well, there's some words. I know some, but definitely back then, like I was saying, I had some exposure. And then of course, all of us had exposure when Psy came out with Gun oh my god, why am I forgetting? Gunman Style? Yeah. And obviously everyone got, a little bit of like exposure to that. And I remember at that time, like it hadn't hit yet. Like the the craze for me, because I was like in 2012. I remember because I was a sophomore, not sophomore. I was a senior in high school at that time. So I remember it so clearly because everyone was just listening to it like out loud. It was on the radio. It was crazy. But like my journey, like again, I had those couple of songs that I had on there for a hot minute, and then I heard BTS one time before I became a fan, and I still remember it so clearly because I liked the song, but I kicked myself for not having looked into it a little bit deeper. So like back when I was working at McDonald's, like I had it was back like when I had my little junker car. It was like a little Subaru, and it only had like a back then if you wanted an aux for an older car, it would be like this cassette. Like you would put this cassette with an aux cable attached to it into the cassette thing, and I don't know, I like it just I didn't have it, like I only had a CD, like a CD player in there, so I was shit out of luck. I didn't have an aux or even any kind of way to listen to my own music in my car, so I would just listen to the radio. Or if I had a CD, I would listen to a CD, but most of the time, just so I can have variety, I would be listening to the radio. And I remember back then they had like I think it was like Ryan Seacrest would do like the Hot 100 or something like that, and they were doing a segment that was like, oh, top 10 viewed like music videos on YouTube. I was just like, oh, like, well, this is fun. This is something different. It's not just the top 100 songs. And I can't remember exactly what he said, but I remember him being like, oh, that's a new group that just released this song like about a week ago, and it has like 10 million views now. And here it is, right? And I was listening to it and I was like, oh, okay. Like I could tell that it was not like I couldn't tell if it was Korean or not. Like I just was like, oh my god, this song sounds like really good. But when you're not paying attention quite like enough, like I remember hearing everything, like the follow up to it before the song, but then after the song, I was like, I did not remember what the group's name was. And I know sometimes like they do like say, and that was like Dope by BTS. And I remember clearly now it was Dope by BTS that they had played on the radio. And that was the first BTS song I ever heard. And I remember it now that it was Dope because when I heard it again, I'm like, hey, I've heard this song before. And I'm like, then I was like, oh, this is the song that I had heard on the radio. And it makes sense. It came out around the same time that I remember heard it on the radio. And you're probably thinking, Natalie, how do you remember something so far away that happens so distinctly? I don't know. Okay. My brain is a little funky and it does that. Or it'll suddenly link two neurons together and you're like, oh, and then that connection will stick for a while. Okay. So I don't know. It's something that I remembered, and that was how I got introduced to BTS in general, but like more unknowingly introduced to begin with. But then my cousin, I remember we were in our first apartment together where like we had finally moved out of our family's house, and me, her, and one of our friends were living together. And like so a lot of times we would just kind of like be like, what should we do? Like what should we watch? And she was getting really into K-pop Tumblr. Like she would see a lot of K-pop groups being mentioned on Tumblr, and she was like, "Oh, I'm trying to get into this. Like I'm trying to like find a group that I like." And she's like, "I've been looking up like, oh, top K-pop groups and top K-pop like songs and stuff like that." And she was like just playing them out loud, And I remember she was going through like EXO, she was going through Shiny, she was going through BTS, and she was going through like some girl groups as well. And like one day, like I remember hearing like some of the songs that she was playing, right? And like my cousin, she kind of like will listen to something over and over and over again sometimes when she likes it. And I started to like, like be like who is this group? Like this song is really good. I really like it. And that's just kind of where it all started. Like that's when she started showing me more of BTS's music. And like of course when I'm telling you she's over here dipping her toes into every single pond, how did we just stick to BTS? Well, those were just kind of the songs we liked the most. Like we enjoyed BTS's music the most, and that could just be that because like they have like when we were listening to some of like the older stuff, they have a lot of like hip hop music. And I know like for me and my cousin, like we grew up listening to a lot of hip hop, like just because like like for me, my cousins and her brothers, they would always be listening to like more hip hop heavy music. My dad would listen to some, like, so it was just something that we already kind of had like an ear for and like a taste of that we like enjoyed. So we naturally gravitated more towards BTS's music. And I am ashamed to admit that in the beginning, like, era of being a fan, I don't think some people understand just how addicting like K-pop, like they have the magic sheet code for dopamine receptors in our brains, okay? They the way that they release new albums, the photo cards, and just how it's structured, it's so engaging. It's built to encourage bad decisions. So like when you take two women that are very easily obsessed with things, because even before that, like I had a very obsessive personality, all right? Like in my cousin too, like we would kind of ricochet off of each other. Like if I like something, she would start to get into it, and then we'd both obsess over it. And then, or she liked something, and I would start getting into it, we would both start obsessing over it. And this was no different, okay? And at that point, I had big girl money. Not really. I worked at McDonald's, and well, actually, did I still work at McDonald's? Yeah, I definitely did. So I was making maybe like 10-25 an hour back then. Ugh. Yeah, that it was like really low. It was not a sustainable wage, especially since again we were living on our own and all that. But so what did we do? We used credit cards. And like so back in that day, it was really just a whole lot of like debt accumulation from buying like albums. We started going to concerts almost immediately. Like let's say we started liking it or liking BTS in like November of 2015, and then 2016 of April, we were already going to a concert. So, and I mean, like, that's kind of a long time. if you think about it. But and then when we went to that concert, I think we went to 2 days, because I think they had 2 days at the Honda Center for the Wings tour, and we went to both. And it just kind of like, especially because, like I mentioned, back then I was living in Reno. There was no such thing as a K-pop store and anywhere nearby. Like it was either LA or Sacramento, that of places that I knew close by that had like any semblance of like a store that sold anything K-pop. So as you can imagine, well, when in LA or near LA, because I think it was Anaheim, we we went a little crazy at the K-pop store. So yeah, like just early fandom for K-pop, at least in for my experience with K-pop, was very like pedal to the metal, like just jumped straight into it, 0 to 100, just anything you can think of. Like we were already like diehard fans. We'd already listened to all of their music, which at that time they were a 3-year-old group, so we were only like looking at like maybe max 100 songs that they had released by that time, but definitely already just like fans, okay? And at that point in like fandom for K-pop, that was also very, very different. Like when I say the culture behind it was really different, it just was. And I think it has to do with the fact that there wasn't a whole lot of casual K-pop fans. There just wasn't. There, because it's, how do you become just a casual K-pop listener unless you are Korean and from Korea, or like you have a friend who is really into K-pop and you just kind of hear some here and there. But it was just not as common. Yeah, it was just not as common. And I think that just kind of at that time, like, so it made fans who were fans a little more like, not like gatekeepy, but a lot more like it was just like a culture of loyalty almost, where there wasn't as many what you would say is like multi stands, at least from where I was going. Maybe like just because I was on the Twitter side of the fandom, and actually I was on the not TikTok, the Tumblr side of fandom, which is a different beast. Like Tumblr side of the fandom was literally just like gifs and sometimes like like people talking about a performance. And yeah, I honestly don't even remember the format of Tumblr. It's been so long. Okay, but I definitely started leaning more towards like the fandom side of K-pop from like the Twitter side, and that was intense. When I tell you that was intense, it was very, especially just for like the BTS fandom. When you were an army back then, you were like legitimately a soldier. Okay, you were a streaming soldier. You knew BTS's schedule. You would know when they were going to be at a like an event, what time their next video was going to drop. Like you knew everything. It was like I don't even, it was just crazy. Like, and I remember being in that like so deeply, where I was just, again, always aware of everything that was going on in the fandom. So every little argument, every little new fandom war, so it was just like very deeply ingrained. Like once you got in there, you were like, it was hard to be casual. That's kind of where I'm trying to like grasp at it here. It was like very hard to just be a casual fan, because it like felt like if you weren't like a ride or die, like you, that loyal like kind of fan for the group, that you kind of had no place there. Like if you weren't someone who was voting for BTS at whatever end of year show it was, if you weren't streaming, if you weren't whatever, that you weren't a good fan, like you don't deserve like your concert tickets, like 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 the curse that would be placed on you, or if you didn't do all of that. And not to then say that inherently any of that was bad or wrong, but I was just deeply in that mindset where I legitimately felt like if I was not streaming their music, if I wasn't like watching their content, making sure that like for like, I remember, oh my god, for like the Billboard top artist, like top social artist, or whatever it was back then, the stress and pressure that it felt like to be a fan of BTS back in those days, where it would felt like we were trying to break through like invisible walls in the industry to just get them like the recognition and to give them their flowers, was just such a different feeling being a fan back then. And there was kind of like a breakthrough moment where I did realize that something wasn't okay with the way I was building my whole personality, my whole life around it, because like I was basically like working nights so that I can be up at the correct time to watch, like BTS at a music show or to see like the end of year shows. Like it was my life started to rotate around being a fan of BTS. And it was something that now realizing was probably deeply because of just like a lot of my circumstances, a lot of the things that I was struggling with at the time. It was just a good way to cope with big things and ignore those big things where I could have something that gave me like that dopamine rush and would make me feel good, and I didn't have to stress and worry about whatever's going on in my life at that time. It was like, yeah, like I would say that like all of that was definitely just enabling um like the escapism for me. Like cuz I think that was like 100% my default way to cope with anything back in the day was escapism. Like I can remember just even going back to school times when I would be struggling through class and just having like a bout of anxiety that I couldn't shake, that I felt like I was gonna like throw up in the middle of class because I was so anxious and so nervous for no reason. And honestly, I still don't know why I had such bad school anxiety, and I never talked to anyone about it because I just thought that I was being so weird. I was being like this is something that you just need to deal with and keep going because they're not going to let you not go to school. So like whatever the hell this is, get over it. Like that was like my mindset, and what I would do back in that day was escape. So I don't know if my teachers would notice, but if I wasn't like not paying attention to like in class, I was trying to read a book. I was trying to I was doodling on my backpack. I was sketching something in a notebook, or I was writing fan fiction, or I was reading fan fiction if like I was getting a little cheeky and I had my Kindle out and I had a little um story in there or something, I don't know. But I was doing everything in my power to just kind of escape the feelings of anxiety and escape those bad feelings. So I had now this major dopamine injector where I can just like hit a button and then get dopamine to make me forget about something. That's what K-pop was for me. And if anyone understands like the just how addicting K-pop can be, like the culture, the fandom, just the capitalism of it all, it is very addicting. And when in the hands of a mentally ill girl that is just trying to escape, it was just a bad combo all around. I can't even be like upset or anything about it because I can still look very fondly at that time of like being a new fan and being a K-pop fan. Like I can't even like look back at it now and think of it negatively at all, because even though I know what I was using it for and what it was doing to me at that time, it was still very fun. It was still very fun, and like it is still part of who I was and my history, and just very hard pressed to be ashamed of what I've done and who I was, because like I can't change that, like unless it was something that I did that I would actually be deeply ashamed about, like if I ever hurt someone's feelings, or if I ever, I don't know, like did something like that, right, where like it was something that was legitimately wrong, either morally or just socially. Sometimes those things, yeah, I will look back on it and be ashamed and I will be upset for myself. But things like that, like I'm just hard pressed to be ashamed about it. I'm just be like, I embrace it, and I'm still technically a fan, so it's kind of hard to be embarrassed of that when I'm still in it. It was definitely like something that was working for what I needed it at that time, because like I was mentioning school time, right? But this was way later in my adulthood. Like when I started liking K-pop, it was around I was 21, so I was already like an adult, and most of my other coping mechanisms hadn't gotten as bad, because like I think in that time I was probably still using food as a cope, and probably just like other fandom type things, because I was always into fandoms. So like if it wasn't Supernatural, it was Doctor Who. If it wasn't Doctor Who, it was um like Sherlock. If it wasn't, like I was always in a fandom of some sort. Like so it was, there was always something I can escape to. But with K-pop, it's just a beast. It's a legit machine for being able to like escape into something. It truly is. I wish I could, like, if someone, maybe there is something out there of just like a documentary or some kind of investigative kind of doc where someone talks through the actual like culture of it, the different nuances of K-pop culture. It's because it's something that I can't even wrap my whole brain around because there's so much to it. And I'm sure, like, because I'm only looking at it in the perspective of being a fan of like just a couple of groups, right? So like BTS and Twice just kind of exclusively. And like I do like other music that from other groups. It's just I don't really like other groups the way that I like Twice and BTS. So it's just coming from that, like I'm sure like in other fandoms there's probably other nuances. So like it just makes it so much harder to really talk about what the culture is because it's so different and so nuanced for each like group that you like. Because even between like being an army and being a once, or like once would be like the Twice fans, it's so different. Like it's so different. And, like you, it's hard to explain too, unless I'd like had time to really break it down and get into it. But I really couldn't be bothered. I couldn't be bothered. But to transition, when I started to slowly separating, because I would say like I was still a pretty big fan that was like still kind of in that like loyalist mindset to the groups that I liked up until 2021, 2022. So it was not even that long ago. But I know in 2018, there was a moment where I realized how weak this was as a crutch for me mentally. Because that's when I think that there was always talks of when BTS was going to go into the military service, like the mandatory Korean military service. I already like kind of knew in my head that there was going to be a time as a fan that I was going to have to experience BTS being away and like away from idolship, or like not even idolship, away from like performing, away from making music and all of that. So I was already mentally prepared for that. But in 2018, I'm pretty sure it's 2018, like I remember it so clearly, there was a end of year award show where BTS kind of got really vulnerable in one of their acceptance speeches, and they were talking about how in 2017 they were seriously considering like breaking up as a group. And when I tell you that dysregulated me so bad that I think for like the next month or so after that, I was like in one huge like panic attack because, and I know this seems like crazy, right? Like, and it wasn't because of BTS. It was because I was starting to realize that I could lose my crutch at any moment. So like the thing that I would use to escape into, like I realized that, oh, this can also cause me pain. This can also like cause my anxiety, my stress. And being hit with that was a really, really hard pill to swallow, especially because in 2018, I was already like dealing with my dad's like health deteriorating, and it was just not a great time. And it wasn't even just because of that, right? Because like I think once I was able to wrap my head around the fact that hey, like that almost happened, they are still a group and I still do need to prepare for when they go into the military, I definitely started to try to separate myself a bit. So like I was trying to get a little bit more into Twice as well. Like, okay, let me, like because I think at that point I would have said that I was a more casual Twice fan. Because in 2018, I started being a fan of them in 2017. And I would say like I knew all of their most popular music, but then I think at some point I was like, let me start listening to all of their albums. Let me start listening to all their music. I started watching more of their like shows and variety shows and stuff like that. And again, just like finding another crutch for my crutch. So like that's kind of where I still was at that time, where I was still very much using it to hold myself up. And it wasn't until BTS actually going into the military, because there's still a lot of years of like being a pretty diehard fan that I went through in that time. And it was when like BTS like it was finally announced, yes, we are all going in, like we're gonna be going, Jin's gonna be enlisting at like XYZ time, right? I realized I did need to start like decentering that, not being their fan, but decentering like that as like a part of me. I don't know how to explain it too well. I was already living in Vegas at that time, and I think it really helped that I had made some like new friends here. I made new connections here. And of course, like I had already started to um like other things and stuff. And I even think that by that time, because I believe it was like 2021. It's kind of hard for me to even remember too much of the military service, but like I said, I did like a hard shift because, like I said before, then right, that loyalist mentality where every bit of media that they would drop, I was watching it. I was up to date with everything, all their run episodes, all of their Bangtang bombs, like all of the just I was up to date with all of it. But like slowly after that, like, and honestly, it was probably me escaping again. It was me trying to escape the fact that like it's changing, that something's going to be different. And so I started to like kind of decenter them in probably an unhealthy way, which was by going into other like fandoms, going into other hobbies, going into just like I think I got really into Minecraft at that time actually, and just like falling into that to escape, like the negative feelings that were coming up because of the changes. And it wasn't until they came back that I realized, like, because I think like this is where I kind of go into the realizing just how much of an evolution like it was from that like loyalist mentality, very hard die hard fan, to where I am now. And that was when they came back. So they all came back, but they were still like kind of doing more like solo stuff. And it was just like anticipation for them to come back as a group. And in my brain, and I remember I was like compartmentalizing like everything like to survive. And I know that's weird again, but like when you make something your crutch for years to help you cope with your bad mental health, it's quite dire to the mental health when something changes, okay? And then when I was like starting to slowly try to unravel or like open up the compartment of like, hey, it's safe to watch BTS stuff again, because I did watch like I would listen to their albums, for their solo albums, that when they dropped it and all of that, but I almost like compartmentalized the fact that the group was separated and that like everything was on hold, because I was just kind of like in my head being like, "Oh, Jimin just released like a new like his new solo album. Like, oh, that's so fun." I wouldn't look at too much of everything about it because a lot of times they weren't helping me. Sometimes in their own like breakdowns of when they were doing like their solo activities, it'd be like, oh, it's so different without all seven people here. And I'm like, that's not good for my brain. I'm already sad about this. So I just kind of tended to stop watching that. Like I would only listen to the new releases, the new performances, and then I would try to just disassociate everything else. Like I was just like, everything else, I don't know her. And it wasn't very healthy, and it probably wasn't the best way to handle that, but that's kind of what I did all throughout like their military service. And then finally, when it was finally like announced, right, the album is finished, the album's going to be dropping at this point as a full group of seven, it was hard. That one, like I think the transition of them coming back as a group was just as hard as the transition of them going into the military, like slowly and like one at a time, not all one at a time, but because it was just like I couldn't figure out what a safe like space would be for me anymore, because I felt like if I were to completely open up and go back to Die Hard fan, then it would be another opportunity for me to feel like the hurt that I had felt in 2018, like that realization like, oh shit, I almost lost them, like we could have lost them. And like that like kind of heartbreak, even though it didn't happen, like it felt like a heartbreak. I was like, oh, if I go back into that like full force, then I'm going to open up myself for like an opportunity of being hurt again. And that's when I realized, like, because at that time it was this year. It was this year. I was already starting to change so much in my life because I was starting to realize just not how unhealthy everything up until like last year, how unhealthy I was mentally, how unhealthy I was physically, emotionally, everything. I started to try to figure out a way to be like still enjoy BTS as like a fan, while not like going back to it being a crutch for me anymore, because the it being a crutch is not what anybody should do. Like I shouldn't have an easy escapism button like where I can just boom, like time to watch BTS for like a billion hours and just dive deep into like all of their like, no, I didn't. I wanted to be able to evolve, because like they're ever evolving like as artists and as people. I had to do the same. And like that's kind of what I did. As I was trying to evolve into a better person, I also I think evolved into a better, healthier version of a fan. And some of the examples that I have for that, why do I feel like I'm writing like a 5 paragraph essay? And then my first example, no, but like one major difference that I feel like I've been experiencing is one, the financial aspect. So I know what I'm about to say makes it sound like that's not the case, but I would say I'm definitely spending my money a lot healthier, a lot wiser than I was when I was a fan, like back in the day when I was the hardcore fan, because back then I was using like debt constantly. So I was using credit cards, like I was taking out loans to pay off the credit cards and then maxing those credit cards out again. And it got really bad. And I know like last year I started trying to fix my finances. So when BTS started to come back, and it's not like it's changed too terribly. Like I think there's a couple of things that have changed just a bit. One of the major things that kind of would make me spend a lot of money was the photo cards, like the photo card collection. So for anybody that's not aware of that, most K-pop albums, when you buy them, will come with a random set of like photo cards, kind of like Pokemon cards, where you don't know what you're gonna get, and they have a certain amount that's like for each album. So like say that BTS released their album Love Yourself Her, and it would come with a L version, a O version, a V version, and an E version. And I don't know if that's the actual one. I can't remember what letters that one had, but each version, like the L version would have one concept. So maybe that version was like a pizza parlor esque theme, and then the O version would be, oh, them in a like biker theme or some, like it would just, each version would have a different concept. And from that concept, that means every single member would have a different photo card. So it would be 7 photo cards for version L, 7 for O, 7 for V, 7 for E. And you get one. You get one photo card, and God forbid there was a group card. Then that means there's 8 cards in there, okay? And if you're a person that had a good sense of responsibility, fiscal responsibility, you would be like, well, I'll buy one of each album, so I have my little collection for the artist that I like, and just whoever I get, I'll get. Like I'll be happy with whoever I get. And then when you're somebody who is like a diehard fan, that's very fiscally irresponsible, you in your head would be, I need to have every single member's photo card for every single version. And that's definitely where I was. That's definitely where I was trying to. And can you imagine? Each album is like $20 minimum. Like some might have been more than that. And to buy 8 albums of the same album, it's to just try to get the photo cards that you want. You can see where the insanity would start. You can see where this is such a like dopamine like machine. It just is, because like the randomness of it, like, oh, am I gonna get duplicates? Oh my god, am I gonna get my bias? Oh my god, am I gonna like get the rare one that everyone on social media is like gushing about? Because I know that's like, since like kind of like fandom has been getting more like, or K-pop fandom is getting more into TikTok, I realized that there would be like these like viral cards where like it would be like, oh, the viral Subin like photo card, and all that would do would just make it so that that photo card would be really expensive on like Etsy, Macari, wherever the hell people would sell stuff now. But yeah, it was just a crazy like mindset that I was in previously, and kind of how that's changed now, right? So I don't have credit cards anymore. And I know anybody that has a bit of finance like knowledge would know that's not 100% good either, because that means I have zero credit history because I have a paid off car, so technically that's a closed account, and it I guess it should still have like a 100% paid off history on there, but technically it's not an active credit line. And I closed all of my credit cards last year, and I think I'll do like another Yap session where I go through my financial history and how like I've fixed it. But basically I closed all my credit cards, and I've just been doing a debt relief program to pay it back and basically just cash flow my life so that like I don't get into the debt again. And there's definitely a lot of negatives about this, and I kind of wish I would have like thought it through more. But honestly, when I really think about it, if I'm really thinking about it, it was the best option for me, because even now I think even now I still have the like thought of, oh, I wish I could put this on a credit card. Oh, I wish I could, like, just because like I know I don't want to dip into my savings, and like I don't have the like, and that's just like I still have that mindset. So I can't even imagine if I try to do like a snowball method type thing, or if I try to do the avalanche method to pay it off and still had credit line available. I don't think I would be able to make good financial decisions still, okay? So knowing myself, I took away my ability to do it. I took away my ability to do it until I can be more responsible. So now, as like a fan, I know, like, because I did this with Twice, because let me just put this into perspective. BTS has 7 members, Twice has 9 members. So I would have been broke. Well, I already was broke, but I would have been bankrupt, desolate. I would have been just it. So for Twice, I already had a mindset of, I'm just gonna buy their albums. Like, so I'll buy all the versions, whatever it is, but just whoever I get in the photo cards, I'll be happy with it, because like I do like all the members of Twice. So like I wouldn't have been upset if I got Jihyo, if I got Momo, if I got like I wouldn't have cared. So I why I couldn't have that same mindset for BTS was insane. But a lot of it is kind of just like it was like a social pressure almost, because you would see people on YouTube, and I had a a K-pop YouTube account before, and I was just looking at it recently with my cousin, and I was just like, wow, I was really trying to follow like the same trends that I would see on YouTube at that time for K-pop, which was just like, at that time what would get views and what was really popular was people buying like massive amounts of albums, opening up like 20 albums to try to get all of the photo cards that they want, like it was a really big thing. And I think like that, along with just like the being a loyal fan and wanting to help with album sales, it just made sense to me to also try to follow in that like trend, and do that and buy a bunch of albums and get that dopamine from, like opening them all up and seeing what photo card I got. And now, like, seeing like all of these extra albums that I have, I'm just like, girl, we were so ridiculous. Why do I have 20 of this album? Okay, it was never that bad. I think we did buy a lot, and so like I do have a lot of duplicate albums, and yeah, it is kind of crazy. It is kind of crazy. And now in my new era, I am just gonna do the same thing I did with Twice, which is just buy the album for the collection, and then if I maybe like have a spare like a spare dollar, like, or and I'm at Barnes and Noble and I see one of their albums, I'd be like, hey, you know what? I'm gonna buy just one album right now. Like, and I know that's weird, but when you think about it, people do that with Pokemon all the damn time. Okay, so it's just like to each their own. But it wasn't anywhere near the scale that I was at before. So I definitely have become a lot more of a instead of like a material type of like fan, like I'm trying to be more of an experience type of fan. And that's kind of how financially that's translating, where I'm just getting the album for the collection, and then like, yeah, it is fun to open it and see like the photo cards, but like I know for this one BTS didn't really have a whole lot of solo photo cards unless you got specific versions. But I'm trying to like just be okay with what I get and just collect like that. And then maybe once like the I hit the lottery, I'll be able to do like the actual like collection that I of my dreams, where it would be like being able to collect all the photo cards and all that. But that's probably not going to happen like in a little bit, okay? Because I'm still trying to recover, still trying to financially recover from what I did in my earlier years as a fan. And so with that, like, again, like switching from material, like a material based kind of fan, where like I was just photo cards and God forbid the BT21 merch or just merch in general, all of that, trying to focus more on the experience part of being a fan. So that's enjoying the music and enjoying performances. And I definitely feel like now that when I do listen to BTS's music, it makes me want to be like, because like sometimes like I think when we get so wrapped up in the material side, where we're just like, oh, like trying to buy like the BTS this, buy the BTS that, it almost feels like we're not ignoring, but maybe like neglecting like the fact of like their craft is the music. Their craft is their performances, like their dance, their them being up out on the stage. And just like recently, like this year, now when I watch the performances, I feel like now I'm like connecting to it so much deeper because I've disconnected from like the like being so focused on the material side. Like I'm starting to really enjoy like connecting to the experience side, like the music, the performances. And I know like instead of like, again, spending all the money on the albums, on the merch, I am investing in saving to be more like, cuz I actually did a really good job of saving because again, I'm cash flowing everything. And to be able to like actually experience having actually saved for these concerts that we went to this year in here in Vegas, like to be able to not only like afford it with 100% cash flow and also being able to go and like not having to be like, oh, I don't have money to like buy food. Well, I was also at home and on a diet, so I had meal preps and stuff. But I remember like back in the day, I'd be like, we would be like, oh, yeah, we're here at the concerts, but we're on credit. Like we're using credit cards to be able to eat. We're using credit cards to be able to pay for the parking. And then this year, being able to go, we went to 3 out of the 4 days, me and my cousin. And luckily, it's in our home, like our home city. So parking was only like $25 a night or like $20 a night because we like kind of parked far away in like a Spot Hero app kind of thing. And we ate at home for most of them. We did eat a couple of meals out just to kind of, like, 'cause it was like, we're having fun. We're going out to a concert. And by that point, I hadn't been eating a whole lot out because I've been on a diet. I've been on a weight loss journey. And like I said, I know that once I tell you that I went to 3 days out of the 4 of the concert, it would seem like I'm not being more financially responsible. But like I said before, when I was going to concerts, I was doing it out of somebody else's pocket, and I was paying interest on top of that. But these concerts, I actually had savings and I had the ability to buy these tickets like without anybody else, like lending me money or anything like that. So it definitely felt a lot more enjoyable. And I do have ideas for a future video of, talking a little bit about how I feel like the concert scene at K-pop shows have gone. So like that might be a video in the future. But yeah, definitely with that like financial switch. And then also like wanting to not like like I think I was trying to like dip into this a little bit earlier, but trying to decentralize like BTS as like my main personality, as my main like source of joy, source of entertainment and all of that, just because I was finally trying to focus inward instead of focusing on the stuff that was going on the outward. So like I was like disconnecting a bit from like not from like them because I still listen to BTS music and I still watch BTS performances and obviously I'm still going to BTS concerts, but to no longer focus on pressure of having to be that hardcore fan all the time, even though I know it's still in there. Because if you were to see me at the concerts, you love someone like you. Nobody knows me like this. No one like you. I don't care how far, just it's still in there. It's just not my main focus anymore. I'm definitely trying to focus more on my personal development. So trying to make sure that one, I fixed, and it's not fixed, but it's definitely a lot healthier coping mechanisms and actually understanding just like how like my mental health like kind of like what the tics are, what is it that's been causing it, what can I actually do to help best support me and not just escape and escape and escape. And so like that's kind of where I've switched, like another reason why I've kind of switched to a more casual fan. But I don't like saying casual because like I said, meet me at that concert, there's nothing casual about me. What do you want to say? Love Yes! Love
Yes!
Okay, okay. Guys, whatever is
Yes!
we have to sing it together, okay?
Yes!
Three days,
Okay, so I like to think of it as a more healthier like fan. Okay, like I'm trying to be a fan in a healthier, more like what's that word? Adjusted? Like an adjusted fan. Okay, or like I'm very well adjusted as a fan. And sometimes like now I see it a lot more as well, where some content of like people who are fans, and I can see that they're living their lives like in a way that I'm just like, oh, okay, so there can be fans that do enjoy BTS and are fans of BTS and do all of the fandom things, but also have well-adjusted lives. And I just was like, okay, I want to be there too, like I want to be there too, and that's kind of what I've been on, like the journey that I've been on. And like and I've tried like to dip back into the culture aspect as well, because like I've been out of TikTok for a while, so TikTok has been gone from my life for a bit. Like I'd still dip in there when I like want to look for like a recipe, or if I'm gonna just answer my friend back like who sent me a TikTok, but I'd never scroll on it anymore. And so I was on Twitter because like actually I was on Twitter because, or X I guess, because I was trying to get tickets to BTS, and like I had to follow Ticketmaster so that they can let me know when the tickets were going on sale and whatever. And so I tried dipping back into the fandom culture a bit on just X, and then I realized just how like being disconnected from it for so long made me so incompatible with like with it now. Like, cause now I'm looking at it, and of course there's still the very similar stuff. Like there'll be like funny memes, and those are always fun, or just people like talking about the performances or how much they enjoyed it or stuff like that. But then, of course, the ugly head of fandom started creeping up, and I realized this isn't for me anymore. Like this is definitely not something that I want to like consume a lot of, and that I want to surround myself by. And just like it's like petty stuff, it's just like fandoms fighting, people just being absolutely like grotesque to other idols and stuff. And I'm like, I remember back in the day, like I would see stuff like that and be like, well, they were talking bad about BTS, so like that's just kind of what's gonna happen. Like their faves are gonna get roasted because of it. And now looking at it, I'm like, guys, like so what? Like who cares? Who cares? And I think it's just because again, it's not an energy I want to surround myself with anymore. And I just don't think that's just very like it's not me anymore. Like I think I've gotten to a point where I don't know, like I don't vibe with it anymore. It's just not for me. I do like the nice fandom like stuff where it's just, people talking about the music, talking about the performances. But when it starts getting into like again, that more negative side of it, I'm just like, yeah, definitely not for me anymore. So I think that's just kind of another thing that's made me feel like I've gotten again into a more healthy relationship with my fandom, my fanship. Like I just have a healthier relationship with fandom. And for like kind of like a final note, I know like obviously I've mentioned it in the motivations video, and it's still something that even though I am like not leaning so much on K-pop for my escapism and all that, I think switching over to being like like reintegrating myself into like the music and starting to enjoy that again, it's actually made me want to learn Korean a lot more. Like it's actually like lit a flame in me that I don't think I had what in the past. Like I did definitely have it because I was just like, I want to be able to watch K dramas and the BTS like stuff without having to rely on subtitles and all this. And but now realizing like, especially because with the new album there was a lot of English songs, right? Like fully English. And at the concert, realizing like how different of an experience it was, because like I'm not gonna lie, I was still singing the Korean songs, like because like when you listen to a song over and over, even if like I can mimic the lyrics, even though like I don't really know what I'm saying, but like I'll definitely be singing along to it because I listened to it for years, like so I know like I know the lyrics to the song, but does my brain process it? Does my brain feel the lyrics? It doesn't. So when I was at the concert recently and I was hearing these songs live that are in English and I could like connect to, like, like connect freaking spiritually to. I don't know. Like it was such a different experience. And instead of like, because like honestly, I always have been a very staunch supporter of like BTS staying very true to their Korean roots. Because like I know there's a lot of like stuff on like Weverse where people will try to be like, hey, can you guys speak in English? Like, oh, are you guys gonna learn how to speak in English? Like, and that still rubs me so wrong. And it did back in the day too, because I'm just like, we're going into something that like we should respect the thing that we're going into. And I think that's like one thing that I might talk about in another video because I have a couple of ideas and one of is my pet peeves. And I just think like if you're dipping into a fandom, a group, something, anything, right? And you're saying that you're a fan of something, I feel like there is an inherent need to respect its roots, or like to respect its background and all of that. So like to go and try to say that you're a fan and then say, hey, can you stop speaking Korean and speak some English? Like, oh, rubs me so freaking wrong. And I want to, like I said, feel like that connection that I felt with the English songs and feel that with the Korean songs too. Because before, I'm not gonna lie, like when I was listening to things like Truth Untold back in the day, or Awake, or like Epiphany, like all of those, like, and like just all of the songs that they have that are very emotional songs. Like, sure, I didn't have that connection to the lyrics and like understanding it, but just like connecting to it just based off like the performance and the vocals and just the emotion that they put through it, I feel like it would just be so different if I can have that connection and actually understand lyrics. Like I feel like it would be like in Ratatouille when he eats like the cheese and the fruit. I think it would be some kind of like out of body experience like that when I finally get to understand the lyrics. And not to say like I don't know what the songs are talking about. Like that's another thing where like fans that listen to the music and don't like look at the lyrics and the translation and like actually know what the song is and what it's about. But like to actually be able to hear it and understand it like bar for bar, that would be just something that I can't wait to be able to experience in the future. So even though like with my fandom ship, my fan card being like, hopefully not revoked, but it's changing in nature a little bit, I do still feel the need to want to like learn Korean just because of that, cuz I feel like I said, I don't want to be ashamed of my past like not my past history, but like of my past. Like I want to be able to embrace it and still enjoy it. Like I don't want to be like in 10 years to be like, oh yeah, that was weird, like I liked K-pop, no, I never understood what they were saying, no, I never, like, I want to be able to take this with me into like well into the future, where maybe even if like I stop being a fan entirely, I still want to be able to look back at the music and be able to enjoy it, just kind of like how I would listen to a song from when I was younger and still like be like, oh, this is so nostalgic, oh, this is, and I never want to lose that connection to the music that has deeply deeply changed me. It really has. So that's kind of it, honestly. I think like there's probably a lot of other nuance to it that I'm not getting into, but those are like the major things that have really changed in like my fandom, like me being in the fandom early in my life and then now, and just how it's changed, how I've evolved with everything, and how even like the industry's kind of changed. And I can definitely get into a lot more of that because there's a lot of change that happened, and it's all a little crazy. So yeah, once again, thank you guys so much for watching this video. I'm probably going to do a couple of more K-pop related yap sessions, so please make sure you're subscribed if you're interested in that at all, and please like the video if you liked it, and leave a comment if you feel like you've also experienced a very similar kind of like evolution in how K-pop has changed, how you interact with it more if you're a fan of it. So yeah, just let me know down in the comments below, and I will talk to you guys in the next one. Bye.